For the rest of today, we really are going to focus on some Q&A with the candidates and our current senator and representative. So if you have questions for them regarding, really with a focus on what we think from a business standpoint, what our obstacles are as business owners, or just people in the community that use the various businesses, the impacts coming up to us, and ideas and thoughts that you guys have as well. So I don't know if you want to kick it off with any kind of opening statement.
Well, I have a question as we start, because Minnesota is a great state, but we are losing businesses out of state, especially being a border state, because of our neighboring states having a more favorable business climate. So just kind of curious to see what your approach might be to help Minnesota become a more business-friendly state.
I'll start. We're in a competition state by state, and we're also in a competition community by community. We're just trying to say we're in these things. So what have I done as a private citizen? McPhail, heard about McPhail. Remember Jerry Infanson? Here's what Jerry Infanson said about Brandon Lawhead. Brandon, every great idea like McPhail is initiated by somebody. Brandon is one of those people. Look at who's on my campaign contributions. The major donor for McPhail in Minneapolis. I was the one that broke it. We had McPhail here. Now we have something we can say to businesses, hey, come to Austin. We got something cool here. We got something going on. Have your kids go here. Who has Bon Jovi and Bruce Springsteen coming and talking to the Austinaires, the band? Me. Come to your Austin schools. Your kids can talk to Bon Jovi and Springsteen band members if they're in play. Who has the camps? Chuck Foreman, Carl Lee, Darren Nelson, free for kids. Hey, come learn football from Chuck Foreman. Me. So, as a community member, that's what I've done. That's what we need to build. We need to build a community with an education that is second to none. Because when you're looking and going to another community, you have to ask yourself, people coming in, that's the first thing they're going to say, where are my kids going to go? Where are they going to go to school? What's that kind of thing? And so that's something that I think we need to do here also in business. I think the one thing that when we're looking at Austin, this issue, I don't have firsthand knowledge of it. My wife had to move out of her building because of bat infestation. So all that work the Cornwall Foundation is doing, all that money is spent, we're on the page of the Star Tribune as the community that has to get evacuated because of bat infestation. That's not good. And so we have to ask ourselves, I think, we are in a competition in southern Minnesota. The opportunity here is that there's a lot of change. It's fundamentally changing. People are now kind of saying to themselves, okay, but I don't have to live in Minneapolis anymore to get to my job. I can live in I can live in a rural community. It's cheaper. And so we have an opportunity here. But when we're not approving money for our school and we're raising our property taxes, I'm a property owner. I'm a landlord. That's what happens. We don't have industry here. We're going to be sucking it up, the property owners, the farmers. So we need to make our community desirable for all of us. And we need to do that in Minnesota. I'm concerned about southern Minnesota. So you asked about Minnesota. I'm concerned about southern Minnesota.
Anybody else?
Well, I guess I can go. I know we're losing businesses to Iowa. It started, I think, when I noticed when the ethanol plant went on the other side of the road down in Lyle. We had the Hy-Vee distribution center. That really, we were going to get that if they would have done it. They just changed their plans. But I think Austin has something that a lot of places hardly anybody has, and that's a normal foundation. I mean, we were negotiating with Hy-Vee. I mean, they got major involved. I mean, they were helping us out financially and a lot of different things. As a matter of fact, the foundation, it was members from the foundation that had initiated all the discussions on it. So we have a big advantage with the foundation, and yet, as far as I think our taxes, I gotta say this, I smoke a cigar once in a while. There's 2 cigar shops, one in Mona and one out here in the mall. So I went to the one in the mall. I said, "You guys don't carry the same cigars?" They said, "Yes, we do." I said, "He said, go get it." I went in the car and got them. $1.98. I smoke cheap cigars. $1.98 in Mona. It was $5 in Austin. I said, wow. I mean, that's a pretty big hike. So, I mean, it's something that absolutely needs attention.
It goes to tax relief and regulation mandates that the state puts on businesses. The climate of Minnesota is difficult, and so what we're doing is we're kind of the businesses are leaving because they want, some of the bigger business, they want that those benefits of tax because we're in the highest tax states, not only business but in income too. So, and then we're losing our workforce, part of them, because we didn't pass the Social Security limiting that this year. So you look around at a lot of these department stores and Walmarts, you know, it's the seniors, they want to do something. They're leaving, and that was such a simple thing to do, and we had it in the tax bill. So it is a tax, it's another regulation. You know, we got these California cars trying to implement things from California, and we're not California. So again, the government, the state is mandating, regulating, and taxing, and people get frustrated. And as far as I talk to a business owner, as I go about my days, you know, going to a shop or hardware store or lumberyard, the same answer is always given: lack of workers. And then as I'm talking now, the inflation is finally caught up now. And the hardware store I was in was a smaller community, but just people aren't coming in. And so again, it's the economy, and it's taxes, it's regulation, and the government is to kind of just level the playing field. It's not to put its weight on for changing of anything. And that leads into a little bit of our push towards green energy. I don't think anyone in this room is against green energy. I'm not. But we have to make our electrical power and whatever affordable, accessible, and reliable. And I'll wrap this up because I did, but it kind of it ties together. It's not just like, oh, it's just this. It just bleeds down because of all these things, and it starts with the taxes, regulation, mandates, and it just bleeds down. So concerned with the electrical power grid, and there was a chance of rolling blackouts and brownouts this year because we're moving too fast. We need our baseline power. So that's it, but so.
Okay.
You know, we listened to the report here, and our school has a $78 million budget. He said only 30 or 40% is free to be sent to where it needs to go. That means that's how much state involvement is in how we spend our money. And that's the same in businesses as well. We listen all the time to our business owners about how the money they get is only for this, or you have to jump through this hoop, or get this grant, or get this whatever. And the jobs bill that I listened to was full of this, full of grants for this type of business owner. Only if you fall into this category, only if you sell something like this. If we let our business owners, our job providers, right? You actually provide jobs for people. If you let them freedom to create, to thrive, to innovate, those are the things that are going to create, thrive, and innovate our community as well. And so that requires us to pull back on our taxes and our state mandates. You know, during my first year, there was a huge tax increase for our businesses that was proposed. And I stood against that from the very, very beginning. And all of the bells and whistles that we're talking about here, that all fades. We need people who are rooted and are able to stay here for long periods of time. And that's what's going to create a foundation. So, we have lots of people who are interested in starting businesses and interested in investing in our community. We see new tech came in, and that was a really exciting thing for our community. We see, Mill on Main is going up. There's lots of changes. The KSMQ got a new building, there's lots of change and exciting things in Austin. And the way that we continue that is through steadfast investment in our community through tax relief and mandate relief as well. So.
Well, I know that the whole regulations really impact the housing market, which is another critical issue that we're dealing with here in Austin. And the fact that, in surrounding states, it costs $40,000 less to build the same house because of the regulations that we have in Minnesota. Now, I'm not saying that we don't want to be safe, but I also don't think that the people building houses in Wisconsin want to be unsafe. So is there a way to peel back some of those regulations to make housing more affordable?
Since we're talking about housing, I've heard for a long time about how the city of Austin is the biggest landlord. What have we done about it?
The city of Austin per capita has more HRA housing than the city in the state.
Yeah. So why don't we privatize them?
What's that?
Why don't we privatize them?
We talked about it.
Why don't we have small business owners, take that over and start doing it?
Well, financially, it would cost the city, that's just a couple 50 years, it would cost the city millions of dollars to do that. Nobody's gonna come in, they gotta pick up your bill for it, first of all. And another thing we've dealt with is they set, HRA kind of sets the rental rates. And
They do,
And
it
they're
screws up
low,
the whole market.
it's screwed up the whole market. And we've tried that.
Benny, what are you doing about that?
How many people are, old people
You're in
are gonna
office.
kick out to get their rent up?
You're in office.
Well,
You know what actually would help with that is if we stopped investing in the HRA the same way that you're asking.
I'm not
That's
asking for
something
it.
that-
I'm saying get rid of it.
What we're happening here is one of the reasons why it's so expensive is because of how many regulations it is. Do you know how expensive it is to build some of those things versus what we had for Mill on Main? I know the chamber was instrumental in actually trying to fix that because we already had a business that was going to come in and say, well, in maybe a couple years after we jump through all the hoops of HRA, we'll finally get something that could maybe attract people who are on the lower income level. Not saying we don't need that because we do, but the balanced housing option is vital. And that's why the Austin Chamber was so insistent on making sure that this was more market rate housing so we could attract people that would actually want to stay and live in our community. Because right now, those who want to stay and live in our community aren't finding houses. And what they are finding are for low income. And they don't qualify for that, nor do they want to live in it. So that's why it has to be balanced.
You can give me a call.
that's what they're pushing in the state is just what she said. They're pushing
But I've heard
that
two things.
they're not, the market rate is not what, it's really hard to get market rate funding and market rate housing in, they had to fight tooth and nail to get this project here. And there's another one that's going in that's, it's not, but, so I agree with you. But it's your party that's in charge that's pushing what you don't, you agree with.
Well, I'm here to do something new. Okay? Because it's not getting done. Okay? I just heard about tax cuts, but the plan agreed upon that wasn't passed by the Senate was the largest tax cut in state history. Yep. And Social Security tax would have been cut. But the politicians here didn't want to do it because they wanted to play political games. If I'm in southern Minnesota.
Brandon,
We just want to hear what you are going to do to make a change.
But that is what I'm going to do.
Don't talk about what others. We want to
But
hear.
we have to know what's happened to change.
The tax bill starts in the House.
Right.
I can't vote on something that doesn't get brought
So
to
the
the
tax
table.
bill never got to the Senate, so we couldn't vote on it. It starts in the House. They didn't.
It has to start in the house, and I never got to vote on it.
In Austin, there was a lot of housing put up in the last 10 years. You know, and it's all about incentives. We're competing with Rochester, basically. And Rochester, everybody sees what's going on there. So if you have, $2 million to put into a, house, apartment, where are you gonna go? It comes down to incentives from the city. I mean, we were giving them land, we were giving them all kinds of things to build stuff here. That's what you have to do it. I didn't hear a lot about, if you're competing with Rochester, they have the same regulations that we do here as far as housing. So, I mean, it comes down to other things. And, it's incentives. You have to give incentives for business and housing. Nobody's just gonna say, I think I'm gonna move to Austin today. I mean, we almost had a Kohl's store here 4, 5, 6 years ago, and they said, it just doesn't fit our market thing. And we offered them, and it came down to a Marshall's. It's, at least we had something, but it's hard to incentivize it. And then, of course, the public's like, well, you're giving our taxpayer dollars away to these people to start a store, when they're gonna make money on it. Yes, but your citizens are demanding places to shop too. So, a lot of it's regulation, but, the internal statewide competition, I didn't hear a lot of people complaining about the regulation. I did in small businesses, but in the housing thing, because we're playing at the same level as everybody we're competing with. So as far as housing, incentives, what are you gonna do?
So the state can bring incentives for housing?
Oh, the city can.
Well, no, because you're running for a state office.
I'm just
so-
telling you how it's working right now. I mean, you're trying to, involve, the state's involved in it, obviously, but what we're doing is competing with other areas that are at the same regulations we do on housing. So, in businesses, I've seen small businesses take a meeting. We had a tax increase maybe 10 years when the state came down, and it hit small businesses hard. We had small businesses go out of business at the time. And I thought, we shouldn't be taxing people out of business. So, I'd have to, if I get up there, I'd have to look at things and make a decision. No, I'm not going to tell you what I do because, but it'd be in favor. I'm certainly in favor of small businesses. My dad was a small businessman.
Replenishing the unemployment insurance fund was huge for business this year.
Yeah.
Did get to accomplish that. That was in the hole. We're paying $50,000, I believe it was a day for to the feds. And we waited so long to pay that back. But anyways, that was huge for business because they were going to send their premiums in for insurance and for their workers. And so we finally got that done. So that was very important for this year. And the other thing we did was the health insurance market is still unstable because of Obamacare. The federal government has never fixed that mistake yet. For private businesses and farmers, they're affected by that insurance. And so that still has to be fixed by the state. We did that too. And it's a Band-Aid. We don't like it. We don't like it, but it's got to be done until the Fed deals with that mistake or in the Obamacare. So that's two big things that helped our small businesses, agriculture, and then actually the unemployment was, I suppose, all businesses. But yeah, the tax, I heard it over and over, give the money back. So when you help the rank and file workers, you're helping businesses because they're going to spend money. They're going to have some, and their taxes are going to go down. So again, it works in together. So the tax relief package that we passed in the Senate was $8.2 billion over 3 years. Social Security being the big one, and then also hardworking Minnesotan families, $1,000 ongoing week after week, month after month, every year. So that was that helps businesses when people have some money to spend.
Thank you. Does anyone online have a question? Anyone in the room have a question?
I would love to hear a candidate that says, I've got a great plan that's not going to put us in a precarious situation in another 4 or 5 years. That long run, the long game. I get it. It's impossible for you to say what that's going to look like here now. But we're always in a reactionary environment. And it's as a business owner, you struggle with it. Because what's the next challenge? So taxes are a big part of it. Excuse me. It's terrible. But, I don't know. I never hear anybody have a plan for other than what they're gonna fix this year and next year.
Well, I think the issue is that, first of all, as a country, we're divided 50-50. And so, one party gets in, they do executive orders. Next party gets in, they go the opposite. Next party, they go the opposite. Round and round and round. And so we're really kind of as a nation circling and doing and undoing. And I think that the nexus of that problem is a fundamentally different way of conducting politics, which is, again, isolating the issues and coming up with bipartisan solutions. I agree with you as a small business owner. And this is where we have to hold government accountable. I'm sitting there looking at this COVID stuff and I'm trying to make decisions. And I would have appreciated it. And again, let's remember, we can go around and around on this inflation issue. President Trump's the one that did it. Everybody did it. Everybody's got their hands in it. And economic rule number one is you spend money, government spending, you're going to get inflation. I mean, this is a Keynesian model of handling this, pandemic, which is an unusual thing, but I would have liked to have a small business owner. Okay, what's the plan? How long is this going to be? And I don't know is okay. Then at least I know as a business owner what I need to do and how I need to react. So I agree. So I think it's more transparency in government, frankly, and more bipartisan working together.
Thanks, Brandon. Mike, you got a question?
Sure. I know time is short, and I appreciate all of the responses from the candidates. Would be interested, in just a quick minute or two response from each of you on your general disposition to the funding requests from the University of Minnesota. I think that you talked about, attracting businesses to the state. And I think that, that starts in a large part with retaining the great talent pool that we have here when we talk about graduating seniors and keeping those students in the state. From that perspective, I know President Gable has really focused on not only building University of Minnesota as a great research institute, but also building the outstate campus locations to serve, Morris, Crookston, Duluth, Rochester. What's just a maybe quick minute or two response, but what's your view on some of the funding requests from the University of Minnesota, either past or future as you understand them?
Would this also include the farm?
That would. I mean, thanks for bringing that up, Elaine, because that's certainly a very important project and topic that's at the front of our minds here in southern Minnesota.
Right.
Well, I guess I'll just start then. Senator Dornink and I were the authors to help bring funding to farm. And while it didn't quite happen this time, we saw the value in how important it was for our students to have authentic experiences that are outside the classroom. And so when I think I've been an educator for almost 20 years, so when I think about U of M, what I want to make sure is that we're focusing our money on things that are going to bring our students success. So that means, how do we reimagine what education can look like? And sometimes there is a lot of emphasis in what we've always done, a four-year school, which is appropriate for other people. But I think making sure that we have good investments in our VOTEC schools or two-year schools, apprenticeship opportunities, I think these are going to attract and retain people because it's partnering with our businesses. We already saw that the Hormel Foundation was able to provide a two-year education for students who earn the Austin Assurance Scholarship. And I think that in itself, by lessening college tuition burden through business partnerships, is what's going to be the most important going in the future.
Thanks, Ken.
Just finishing off with her, she did a great job of presenting Representative Mueller. But yeah, that farms was really an exciting project that's coming. And it came kind of late in this, towards the end of the session, and I was very excited about it. And with having Hormel's, such a great, partner with that. I'm really excited to see, and we'll see what we can do next session if we're elected. But yeah, I agree with that. I'm excited about what the University of Minnesota is doing on that front. I support it, and we'll just have to see how that works out.
Well, I'm a little bit of a disadvantage. I'd have to know what the different project, I mean, we talk about, always for funding project. I definitely believe we need to put more dollars into our all-state institutions, that's the question. I'd like to know what happened with the bill that you're talking about now. Where is it?
Well, everything's dead now because of second fact.
Yeah, that's the
I
start.
mean, is that something that's gonna be, you start where you left off when this session started?
And Hormel's is in, so it'll continue. We'll start up again. Next session.
Well, I know from my experience as mayor, I mean, if Hormel's in, that means they're bringing a big component to it, and, you're almost always better off being involved in stuff, because Hormel's, we get a lot of stuff half off, and you can't it's hard to turn that down, especially if it's advantageous to you.
Thanks, Brandon.
I support, for example, there's a funding bill for the Hormel Institute that was voted down. I would have supported that. I think, again, I'm thinking of this district, and I think that, supporting those types of things can be helpful in this district. In the end, as a merchant, we need people with jobs and money. Nobody's going to go to the country club if we don't have money. If you don't have people of that caliber. Again, that's why the Arts Festival, the Minnesota Orchestra, creative partner, I brought him down here. If you have beautiful things, beautiful people will come. And so again, it comes back to a larger scale. But for sure, supporting that is critical long-term for this community. So
Thank you.
I think we've seen two, when I was mayor, the Hormel Institute expanded twice. I mean, I can remember the 70s driving around in just a little garage over there, and what they've turned into is just amazing. But, this isn't the end, they want to go, I mean, they're making innovative, all kinds of different discoveries there. And I think anything we should be investing in the Hormel Institute to put us on the map, on the medical.
Thank you.
All right, well, we are at our time limit. I do thank everyone for joining us today. Obviously, more to come on a lot of this, but just thank you all for joining us.